Rise up. Can you hear it? That whisper inside your chest, shaking the bones, rattling the quiet parts of your mind you've been trying to ignore. It's not just a suggestion. It's a command. You've been hiding, shrinking, blending in, pretending your fire wasn't meant to burn so bright. But now, the universe itself is screaming at you to stand, to show up, to let the world see what happens when someone refuses to stay small. They've been waiting, you've been waiting, and now it's time. Every doubt, every fear, every quiet apology for taking up space, it's over. Rise up and let all of them witness what it looks like when someone finally chooses to claim what was theirs all along. Your time to step into your power is now. Do you feel it? That restless energy in your chest, that heat crawling up your spine, the jitter in your hands that tells you something is about to change. You've been waiting, holding back, tiptoeing around life as if the world might collapse if you finally stretched your limbs and claimed the space you've always deserved. But the truth is, the world won't collapse. It will react. It will notice. And that reaction, that undeniable awareness, will be the first sign that your rise cannot be ignored. You've spent too long listening to the whispers of doubt, letting fear dictate your steps, pretending that safety and invisibility are worth more than the raw, chaotic, unapologetic power inside you. But now, something is stirring, and it refuses to be contained. Step into your power, and everything changes. The air shifts. People feel it before you even speak. You become magnetic, not because you're loud, but because you're alive in a way that can't be hidden. Every step you take becomes a statement. Every glance, a signal that you've crossed a threshold, that the version of you who shrinks and hesitates is no longer in control. And it terrifies some, inspires others. But most importantly, it awakens something inside you that you've been starving for proof that you can command your life, your presence, your destiny. Power isn't given. It isn't a reward. It's claimed. And claiming it requires you to stop pretending you are small. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop deferring to a world that would rather you stay invisible. Every second you hesitate, someone else is trying to claim the space that was meant for you. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you shrink, the world keeps moving. Opportunities keep slipping, and the energy that could have been yours is absorbed by those too bold to wait. Stepping into your power is about reclaiming what is inherently yours, about acknowledging that the life you imagine is not a dream reserved for others. It is yours to take, yours to shape, yours to live. And that act alone, that conscious decision to rise, will shake the foundations of every expectation that has ever tried to cage you. Power isn't just about dominance. It's about presence. It's about the way your energy rearranges the room without a single word, how your focus sharpens perception, how your conviction bends circumstance toward possibility. When you rise, you don't just change your trajectory, you change the way everyone around you perceives reality. People will whisper, stare, envy, admire, and question, but none of it will matter because you know the truth. Your life is no longer subject to their comfort, their opinion, their control. You are moving in alignment with something far bigger than the hesitation that has held you down, something far greater than the fear that once told you to step back, something that demands you stand tall and unapologetic. Rising up is also terrifying because it forces confrontation with your own limitations. You will see weaknesses, insecurities, and failures you've buried under layers of distraction and avoidance. And the paradox is exquisite. You can either let them define you, let them chain you to the old version of yourself, or you can face them, acknowledge them, and use them as fuel to propel you higher. The process is uncomfortable, chaotic, messy, but it is necessary. Every person who has ever risen into power has had to stare down their own doubts and fears and choose to act anyway. To rise is to embrace discomfort, to dance with the chaos inside, and to allow it to sharpen you rather than shatter you. When you finally choose to step into your power, everything around you begins to reflect it. Opportunities appear, not by coincidence, but because energy attracts energy. People who doubted you will start noticing, not because they respect you yet, but because the force you carry cannot be ignored. Your decisions become more precise, your voice more authoritative, your presence more commanding. And that is just the beginning. The ripple effect of rising isn't contained to your life alone. It touches everyone who has been waiting for an example, everyone who needs permission to claim their own power, everyone who has been afraid to stand because they feared judgment, failure, or ridicule. Rising up is contagious. It spreads like fire, like electricity, like the inevitable tide that refuses to be stopped. And when you finally claim your power, when you finally decide to live unapologetically, you are no longer alone. Witnesses will emerge, drawn to your energy, inspired by your courage, compelled by the audacity of your action. The world doesn't reward quiet compliance. It notices bold defiance. It responds to unstoppable momentum. It reacts to people who refuse to be contained, who refuse to shrink, who refuse to defer their light to the dimness others prefer. So step into your power, because there is no better time than now, no better version of yourself waiting to emerge, and no force in existence capable of stopping the momentum of someone who has finally chosen to rise. Standing tall inspires others to rise with you. Have you ever noticed the ripple effect of presence? The way one person's courage, one person's audacity, one person's refusal to shrink can unsettle the very fabric of complacency around them. It starts small, almost imperceptible. A shift in posture, a sharper tone, a decision that defies expectation. And suddenly, the air changes. People feel it before they understand it. They watch you move, and something stirs inside them, a whisper, a spark, a question they've been too afraid to ask themselves. What if I could do the same? Standing tall isn't just an act of visibility. It's a signal, a declaration, a silent invitation for others to step out of the shadows and claim their own space. The paradox of influence is that it often begins unintentionally. You don't stand tall to inspire. You stand tall because something inside refuses to shrink any longer. And in that refusal, others begin to mirror you, even if unconsciously. Your confidence becomes contagious. Your audacity becomes a model. And every step you take, every choice you make, every risk you embrace becomes a mirror reflecting the potential that exists in those around you. People have been waiting for someone to show them what's possible, to breach the invisible boundaries of fear and doubt, and your rise becomes proof. Your stance, your focus, your refusal to settle, these are not just personal victories. They are silent instructions to anyone watching that limitation is optional, that courage is contagious, that power is not reserved for the few, but claimed by those willing to reach for it. But standing tall is not comfortable. It is raw. It is exposure. It forces confrontation with every insecurity, every doubt, every scar you've carried in silence. People notice when someone dares to live unashamedly. Some admire, some resent, some fear. And that's part of the process. The way you hold yourself, the clarity in your gaze, the unspoken authority in your movement, it unsettles those who have built their lives on conformity. They expect obedience. They expect compliance. They expect quiet. When you defy it, when you rise, when you claim your space unapologetically, the reaction can be intense. But intensity is not weakness. It is evidence. Evidence that your presence is alive, that your energy is undeniable, that your movement carries weight beyond your own imagination. And here's the secret: the more you rise, the more others feel permission to rise. Standing tall creates a vacuum that draws people out of hiding. People who have been shrinking, settling, pretending they are content, suddenly find themselves questioning their own limitations. Your actions, your courage, your refusal to compromise becomes a template they cannot ignore. They start to take risks. They start to speak. They start to move in directions they once believed were forbidden. Inspiration is not about speeches or lectures. It is about the raw, undeniable proof that someone dared, that someone risked, that someone refused to be small. And standing tall is the loudest form of that proof. There will be resistance, of course. People who are threatened by your ascent, who fear the disruption of their own comfort, who cannot bear the idea that someone else's rise makes them feel invisible, will try to dim your light. They will whisper, they will question, they will attempt to shame. But their resistance is meaningless against momentum. The energy of someone standing in their power, moving deliberately, living without apology, cannot be contained. It cuts through doubt. It breaks barriers. It destabilizes stagnation. And every time you refuse to step back, every time you resist their attempts to shrink you, every time you assert your presence, you reinforce the silent message: rise, because you can, because you deserve, because power is contagious. The act of standing tall is also a confrontation with your own internal resistance. Fear, hesitation, old wounds, insecurities, they all push back. They whisper that it is safer to blend in, that it is wiser to wait, that it is easier to shrink. But each time you rise despite them, each time you push past doubt, you carve a path not just for yourself, but for those watching, for those waiting for someone to prove that bravery is possible, that audacity is effective, that presence matters. Your life becomes a beacon, a signal flare, a living testament to what happens when someone refuses to defer to fear. Standing tall is more than posture. It is a declaration, a movement, a contagious force. Every gesture, every step, every decision broadcasts a message. You are allowed to exist fully, unapologetically, powerfully. And as you rise, as you refuse to hide, as you claim your rightful space in the world, others will feel compelled to rise with you, pulled by the gravity of courage, the energy of presence, the undeniable proof that when one stands, many can follow. Every fear you overcome becomes proof of your strength. It's strange how fear can feel so heavy, so suffocating, like a weight pressing down on your chest, yet the very act of facing it, of staring it straight in the eyes, transforms that weight into power. Fear has a funny way of convincing you that you're smaller than you are, that the world is bigger than you, that the risks outweigh the rewards. But every time you confront it, every time you refuse to let it dictate your steps, you prove something undeniable, not to them, not to the world, but to yourself, that you are stronger than the doubts, braver than the hesitation, sharper than the uncertainty. Strength is not something given. It is forged in the heat of facing the very things that terrify you. Think about the moments when fear whispered that you couldn't, that you shouldn't, that stepping forward would be dangerous, foolish, or impossible. And yet, here you are, still moving, still breathing, still standing. Each decision to act in spite of that fear chips away at its hold over you. Every time you take a step into the unknown, You carve proof into reality itself. You are capable, resilient, unstoppable. The world may not notice immediately, but your own body, your own mind, your own energy registers the shift. You become someone who cannot be easily shaken, someone whose presence carries weight because they have already danced with their own shadows and refused to falter. Fear thrives in isolation, in quiet, in hesitation. It grows in the pauses, the overthinking, the moments when you let what-ifs run wild in your mind. But courage is contagious. The act of confronting fear, of taking action despite trembling hands or racing heart, broadcasts a signal to the universe. I will not be stopped. And the more you do it, the less fear has power over you. The more you transform it into fuel, into energy, into momentum that propels you further than you thought possible. Each confrontation with fear becomes a building block, a stone in the foundation of your strength. There will always be challenges, obstacles, people, circumstances that try to amplify your fear, to convince you to retreat, to whisper that the world is too dangerous or that you are too weak, and that is where the real proof comes in. Strength is measured not in comfort but in confrontation. Every time you act despite trembling hands, despite racing thoughts, despite uncertainty, you make a statement, silent, powerful, unassailable, that you are no longer a prisoner of your own hesitation. Fear is temporary. Strength is permanent. And each step you take through the fire of fear leaves an imprint that cannot be erased. What's remarkable is that overcoming fear does not just prove strength to yourself. It becomes visible to others. People notice when someone refuses to shrink, when someone refuses to give in to doubt, when someone chooses action over hesitation. Your courage becomes a benchmark, a signal flare, a living proof that fear is optional, that power is available, that strength is cultivated through movement rather than waiting. And even if they try to minimize it, even if they whisper doubts behind your back, even if they attempt to undermine you, the evidence of your strength is in every decision you made in spite of what terrified you. Strength grows exponentially. One fear overcome leads to another, each step building confidence, each confrontation solidifying resilience, each victory proving that the limits were never real. And it is addictive in the best possible way, the rush of action, the clarity of movement, the quiet knowing that nothing external can shake the foundation you've built inside yourself. Fear becomes a tool, a marker of growth, a measuring stick for the courage you are willing to cultivate. And the more you face, the more unstoppable you become, the more undeniable your presence, the more unshakable your resolve. Every fear you conquer is also a message to those watching. It is a signal that hesitation is optional, that power is available, that audacity is rewarded. It is proof that life is not meant to be tiptoed through quietly, but to be lived fully, boldly, unapologetically. The evidence is written in your posture, your decisions, your energy, your relentless forward motion. You have faced what frightened you most and survived. You have chosen action over paralysis, presence over hiding, reality over illusion. And that choice, repeated again and again, becomes the undeniable proof of your strength, an energy that radiates outward and leaves no doubt that you are capable, you are formidable, and you are rising. Your presence is a declaration of your purpose. It isn't just the way you walk, the way you hold your head, the way your eyes glint with a quiet fire. It's something deeper, something that pulses through every decision you make, every risk you take, every step you dare to take where others hesitate. Presence is not merely being. It is existing with an intensity that cannot be ignored, an energy that demands attention without asking for permission. It's the difference between living a life that blends into the background and living a life that reshapes the landscape around you. And when your presence aligns with your purpose, it becomes unstoppable, magnetic, undeniable. Purpose has a way of sharpening presence. When you are clear about why you exist, about what you are here to do, the way you carry yourself changes. You no longer move in hesitation, no longer shrink in fear, no longer apologize for occupying space. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every action you take becomes a piece of evidence, proof to the world and yourself that you are here for a reason. And the irony is exquisite. The more fully you inhabit that space, the more people notice, the more they are drawn to your energy, and the more the world bends to the force of someone who knows why they exist. Presence aligned with purpose is also a challenge. It exposes you. It forces confrontation with the parts of yourself you've ignored, the doubts you've hidden, the fear that has whispered in your ear for too long. People notice that exposure, even when you don't realize it. Some will admire, some will resent, some will fear. And that is the paradox. True presence threatens those who have grown comfortable with mediocrity, who have accepted shadows as their reality, who have settled for quiet existence over audacious living. Your energy becomes a signal flare, a reminder that life is meant to be claimed, not tiptoed through, and that standing with purpose is louder than any words could ever be. The power of presence is contagious. When someone moves through life with clarity, with intention, with unshakable focus, it challenges everyone around them to reconsider their own stance. People unconsciously mirror strength. They sense authority without it being announced. They feel conviction without it being demanded. And what starts as a quiet ripple soon spreads, touching those who have been waiting for someone to prove that living fully, boldly, unapologetically is possible. Your presence becomes proof that the world responds to authenticity, to audacity, to alignment between action and purpose. But presence is not granted. It is claimed. It is a daily, moment-to-moment choice to stand fully in who you are, to speak boldly when others stay silent, to act decisively when hesitation is easier. It requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. You cannot align with purpose while hiding, while shrinking, while allowing fear or doubt to dictate your steps. The moment you choose to inhabit your presence fully, every action, every gesture, every breath becomes a statement. I am here. I matter. I have a reason. And the world cannot help but notice. There is also a defensive aspect to presence. People will test it, question it, challenge it. They will attempt to pull you back into obscurity, to diminish your energy, to undermine your purpose. And yet, true presence withstands these tests. It does not bend to external pressure. It does not shrink in the face of criticism. It does not falter under scrutiny. Presence aligned with purpose is a force field, a declaration, a constant, unwavering signal that you exist in service of something bigger than temporary opinions, fleeting judgments, or shallow expectations. Your presence communicates what words cannot. It shows people who you are before you speak, what you value before you declare it, how you move through life before you explain your choices. It carries authority, magnetism, and inevitability. And the deeper your purpose, the more unshakable your presence becomes. People will feel it, whether they consciously recognize it or not. They will react, some with admiration, some with resistance. But all will register the reality. You are operating at a level that commands acknowledgement, that influences energy, that shifts perception. So claim your presence. Live each moment as a declaration of your purpose. Step fully into the life you were meant to inhabit. Every movement, every decision, every breath aligns you with a force larger than fear, larger than hesitation, larger than the limitations others have tried to impose. Presence becomes power, purpose becomes proof, and the world begins to witness, whether it is ready or not, the undeniable truth of someone who refuses to be invisible, someone who refuses to shrink, someone who refuses to let their life go unnoticed. Let your actions speak louder than their doubts. There's a subtle kind of power in movement, in doing, in creating, in stepping where others hesitate. Words are fleeting, promises are fragile, but action is tangible. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be dismissed. It cannot be erased. People will talk, they will speculate, they will judge, but the reality of what you do will always outlast their opinions. Every step you take toward your purpose, every risk you embrace despite fear, every choice you make in alignment with your goals sends a signal louder than any argument, louder than any explanation, louder than any whisper behind your back. Doubt is a constant companion, both from within and from the outside. People will doubt your capacity, your courage, your timing, your vision, and even your own mind will whisper questions, second guess, and tempt hesitation. But action cuts through it all. Action transforms possibility into reality, whispers into proof, and hesitation into momentum. Each time you act despite doubt, you demonstrate not only to the world, but also to yourself, that your strength and determination outweigh every fear, every criticism, every uncertainty. It is in action that belief becomes visible, that courage becomes tangible, that destiny starts to shift in your favor. The beauty of letting action speak is that it bypasses resistance. Words can be argued, intentions can be questioned, but movement consistent, deliberate, fearless movement cannot be denied. People will notice the results, even if they refuse to acknowledge the effort. They will feel the impact, even if they do not understand it. Your energy, your drive, your refusal to pause in fear or hesitation creates a force field that others cannot penetrate with doubt or opinion. Action commands attention. Action reshapes reality. Action leaves a trace that cannot be erased, and it leaves no room for anyone to question your determination, your purpose, or your capability. Action also reveals authenticity. People can sense when someone is speaking from noise, from ego, from superficial desire. But when you act, when your choices align with your vision, when you step deliberately into what you want despite obstacles, authenticity radiates from every movement. And authenticity cannot be faked, cannot be hidden, cannot be ignored. It resonates with those who matter, influences those who hesitate, and challenges those who doubt. The proof is in the doing, in the visible, undeniable steps that transform intention into reality. Each action builds momentum. One decision to move forward, one step into the unknown, one risk embraced, compounds into progress, into confidence, into inevitability. Doubt is weakened by repeated movement. Fear is diminished by consistent courage, and the whispers of skeptics are drowned out by the undeniable evidence of your progress. The more you act, the more unstoppable you become, the more your presence demands acknowledgement, and the more your results validate every ounce of effort you have invested. Let action speak because it silences distraction. It eliminates hesitation. It dissolves the noise of fear, the murmurs of critics, the paralyzing effects of overthinking. When you choose to act, you take control. You assert authority over your life, over your purpose, over your destiny. You no longer wait for permission, approval, or validation. You move, and in moving, you command reality to respond to your energy, to your vision, to your determination. There will be resistance, of course. People will attempt to interpret your actions through the lens of their limitations. They will doubt your strategy, question your timing, speculate on your motives. But none of this matters, because the evidence is in the doing. Every step you take, every move you make, every risk you embrace creates a ripple that cannot be denied, a footprint that cannot be erased, a proof that speaks louder than their whispers ever could. Action is contagious. When you move boldly, decisively, unapologetically, it challenges those around you to do the same. It creates a momentum that spreads, inspiring others to rise, to act, to confront their own fears, to claim their own space. Your actions are not just proof to yourself, they are a signal to the world that courage is possible, that power is attainable, that hesitation is optional. Every deliberate step you take becomes a story, a lesson, a beacon, demonstrating the undeniable truth that doing, moving, acting is the ultimate declaration of strength and intent. So let your actions speak. Let them be louder than doubts, stronger than criticism, bolder than fear. Step forward consistently, move decisively, create relentlessly. Let every choice, every risk, every effort broadcast the reality of your power, the clarity of your purpose, the inevitability of your rise, and the undeniable proof that your life is not defined by whispers or limitations, but by the force of your unstoppable, relentless action. Witnessing begins the moment you stop shrinking. It's remarkable how the world waits for someone to refuse to hide, to step forward into the space that has always belonged to them, to declare their presence without apology. Shrinking, hiding, pretending that you are less than you are, may have felt safe, but safety is an illusion. The moment you stop deferring, the moment you stop retreating, the moment you stop excusing your own existence, something shifts. People notice energy. They feel it before they see it. They sense intention before it manifests in action. And when you refuse to shrink, when you decide to occupy your rightful space, the world begins to witness the force you have carried quietly inside you all along. Shrinking has been a habit, a survival mechanism, a way to avoid conflict, judgment, and exposure. But growth, influence, and purpose cannot thrive in hiding. Life responds to movement, to energy, to presence. Every time you shrink, you delay not only your own destiny, but the ripple effect your courage could create. Witnessing begins when you act boldly, when you embrace discomfort, when you step into the unknown with the audacity to trust yourself. And it begins internally. First, the internal acknowledgement that you are done hiding, done apologizing, done pretending to be small so others feel comfortable. That is where the first ripple starts. And from that ripple, the external world cannot help but react. There will be resistance. People will try to contain you, to label you, to project their own fear and limitations onto your life. They will whisper, judge, and attempt to manipulate perception. But their reactions are merely proof that your energy is real, that your presence cannot be ignored, that your choice to stop shrinking has created waves in a pond that had long been stagnant. Witnessing is born not from approval, but from undeniable reality. The undeniable reality that someone has chosen to live fully, without compromise, without hesitation, without apology. And that reality cannot be silenced, cannot be hidden, cannot be diminished. When you stop shrinking, you also stop waiting. Waiting for permission, waiting for validation, waiting for the right moment that may never come. The moment you claim your space, claim your voice, claim your energy, you step into a current that propels you forward regardless of external conditions. People begin to watch, not necessarily because they want to, but because the energy you radiate demands attention. Witnessing is inevitable when you refuse to hide. Every confident step, every deliberate choice, every bold decision sends a signal that cannot be ignored. This is me, unapologetic and unstoppable. The process is also internal. Witnessing begins within the mind and body. As you recognize your own value, your own capability, your own power, you stop shrinking, not just physically or externally, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You shed the self-imposed limits, the insecurities, the fears that have kept you small, and in shedding them, you create an internal magnetism that draws attention, that inspires recognition, that compels the world to pay attention. The internal act of refusing to shrink manifests externally, inevitably, and powerfully. Every time you refuse to shrink, you rewrite the rules. You challenge norms, expectations, and assumptions. You create a new narrative where courage is visible, audacity is contagious, and presence is undeniable. Others begin to witness not only your energy, but also the possibility that they too can rise. They too can claim their space. They too can step out of the shadows that have constrained them. Your life becomes a reference point, a proof, a mirror reflecting the audacity they have been too afraid to express. Witnessing spreads because it is magnetic. Energy cannot be contained when it is authentic and unapologetic. Fear will attempt to pull you back. Doubt will whisper that you are too much, too bold, too visible. Criticism will try to convince you that shrinking is safer, quieter, better. And yet, every moment you resist, every moment you continue to act, to show, to exist fully, reinforces the truth that witnessing is unstoppable once you refuse to shrink. Presence becomes proof, courage becomes contagious, energy becomes undeniable, and your life becomes a signal that can neither be ignored nor diminished. Witnessing begins in small moments. A bold word, a decisive step, a refusal to retreat, a demonstration of your unique power. And as these moments accumulate, they create a force that cannot be contained. People will see, energy will react, influence will spread, and the world will acknowledge your existence, not because they were asked to, but because your refusal to shrink commands recognition. Every choice to live fully, every step into your own power, every act of unapologetic presence builds momentum, amplifies your energy, and ensures that witnessing begins, grows, and spreads in ways that are inevitable, unstoppable, and profoundly transformative. God said, "Open your eyes." But how often do we really see? Not the things we want to see, not the comfortable lies, not the shiny illusions we tell ourselves, but the truth hiding in plain sight. It's a trap out there. Every smile, every promise, every easy answer, it's designed to fool you, to make you step where you shouldn't, to make you think safety is real. Awareness, such a simple word, isn't it? Yet, it's the most dangerous thing for those who wander blindly through life. People think they are awake, they think they see, they think they understand the world around them, but most of them are asleep, eyes wide open, faces forward, nodding politely at the chaos, pretending they understand the rules of the game. Awareness is more than just seeing. It's noticing the cracks in the walls, the whispers in the shadows, the subtle movements that hint at danger. It's the difference between stepping into a trap with a smile and stepping around it with a smirk. People go through life thinking ignorance is bliss. They tell themselves that looking too closely, questioning too much, Noticing the patterns is exhausting, inconvenient. But ignorance is a luxury. Awareness is a weapon. Awareness is the flashlight in a room full of hidden blades, the key that unlocks the cage before it shuts, the voice that whispers, "There's more here than you realize." Most people don't want it. They fear it. Because awareness isn't comforting. It's sharp. It cuts through illusions. It exposes lies. It reveals the threads holding up the stage of their lives. And once you see the threads, you can't unsee them. It's ironic, isn't it? People think they are clever, thinking that if they ignore danger, it will ignore them back. They trust smiles. They trust words. They trust the familiar. But traps don't ask for permission. Traps don't wait for your comfort. Traps don't care if you feel ready. They are patient, cunning, and they thrive on the blindness of those who think they know. Awareness is the first defense. It's the first rebellion against the quiet, hidden snares placed along every path you take. Without it, you are prey, wandering through life, thinking you're free, thinking you're safe, thinking the world isn't laughing at your naivety. Awareness is more than noticing the obvious. It's noticing the tiny inconsistencies, the unnatural pauses, the glances that linger a little too long. It's hearing the tone behind the words, seeing the intention behind the smile. It's the ability to sense the trap before it closes, to feel the pull of the hidden strings, to recognize when the world is asking you to step exactly where you shouldn't. And most people don't have it. Most people are walking blindfolded into cages they will never escape from. But awareness changes the game. It gives you a chance, not a guarantee, not a promise, but a chance. And the funny part is, awareness can be uncomfortable. It forces you to question everything. Who is friend? Who is foe? Which path leads to safety? Which to ruin? The moment you start noticing, the illusions begin to crumble. The lies you've been feeding yourself about control, about trust, about normalcy start falling away. You realize the world isn't kind. The world isn't fair. And yet, in that realization, there is power. Power to see the traps before they snap. Power to move with intention. Power to make decisions while everyone else is stumbling blindly. People fear awareness because it makes them responsible. If you see the trap, you can't pretend it doesn't exist. If you understand the danger, you can't blame luck when it strikes. Awareness forces action. It forces decisions. It forces courage. And the traps hate courage. The traps thrive on hesitation, on ignorance, on the sweet comfort of people walking blindly into their jaws. Awareness is the rebellion. Awareness is the first spark of chaos in a world designed to trap you. The path to escaping traps is littered with those who weren't aware. Their stories are silent warnings, their missteps invisible lessons. They trusted what looked safe, what felt normal, what seemed inevitable, and yet the trap closed. Awareness isn't just seeing it coming, it's feeling it, predicting it, recognizing it before it becomes inevitable. It's understanding the rhythm of the world, the pattern behind the smiles, the danger hidden in plain sight. And once you feel that rhythm, once you notice the subtle signals, once you start seeing the traps before anyone else, your life begins to change. Awareness is the first step because without it, nothing else matters. Without it, courage is wasted, action is misdirected, survival is impossible. You can run blindly all you want, fight with heart and energy, scream into the void, but if you are not aware, the trap is always one step ahead. Awareness allows you to bend the rules, to anticipate the snap, to see the hidden wires and avoid them, to understand that the world is not what it seems, and that every comfort, every promise, every smile could be a snare. Comfort. Such a tempting illusion. People crave it, chase it, wrap themselves in it like a warm, soft blanket, thinking that safety lies in ease, that danger lurks only in the unfamiliar, the chaotic, the unpredictable. But comfort is the perfect disguise. It hides the edges, it dulls the senses, it lulls the mind into believing everything is as it should be. The trap doesn't announce itself with flashing lights or alarms. No, it sits quietly behind the smiling faces, behind the familiar routine, behind the soft glow of everything is fine, waiting for the moment you let your guard down. People mistake comfort for safety. They convince themselves that ease equals protection, that the world cannot hurt them when they feel cozy, when everything seems familiar, when the routine is predictable. They ignore the subtle signs, the slight hesitation in a handshake, the pause in a conversation, the glimmer of something unusual in an ordinary situation. Comfort is a veil, a smokescreen, a lullaby that hides the claws beneath. And the trap, oh, the trap loves those who believe in comfort. It preys on them quietly, patiently, with precision. It's fascinating, really, how humans are willing to trade awareness for ease. They would rather close their eyes, avoid the questions, ignore the warnings, than step outside the boundaries of comfort. They assume that nothing can harm them as long as the world seems soft, predictable, controlled. But danger doesn't care about perception. Danger doesn't knock politely at the door of ease. Danger waits for the moment you settle in, the moment you stop questioning, the moment you believe you're untouchable. And then it strikes, often disguised as exactly what you thought was safe, exactly what you trusted, exactly what made you feel comfortable. Comfort is a liar. It whispers sweet nothings, tells you everything is fine, convinces you to slow down, to relax, to ignore the signs, and people fall for it again and again. They take the path that feels smooth, the relationship that feels easy, the job that feels secure, the routine that feels harmless, all the while ignoring the hidden cracks beneath their feet, the invisible snares, the quiet danger lurking just out of sight. The more comfortable they become, the less they notice. And when the trap closes, they are caught in disbelief, stunned that the thing they trusted most was the very thing that betrayed them. And isn't it ironic? People think danger comes dressed in chaos, in loud warnings, in dramatic threats. But most of the time, danger is subtle. It is quiet. It is soft. It sits in the familiar, the cozy, the reassuring. It smiles when you smile. It nods when you nod. It blends perfectly into your world until the moment you can't escape. The trap doesn't want you panicked. Panic makes you notice. Calmness, ease, comfort. That's what the trap wants. It's the invitation, the warm hand, the lullaby that lets it strike without resistance. Comfort dulls the senses, slows the reflexes, weakens the mind. It teaches you to trust appearances, to believe in what feels right, to ignore the subtle whispers of intuition, to dismiss the shadows in the corner of perception. People mistake that dulled awareness for safety. They mistake that softness for protection. But it's the opposite. Comfort creates vulnerability. Comfort hides the teeth of the trap beneath the velvet lining of what seems harmless, what seems inviting, what seems inevitable. And people, they cling to it. They seek it out. They fight to maintain it. They fear disruption. They fear change. They fear the sharp edges of reality poking through the warm, soft illusion of normalcy. But every trap relies on comfort. Every snare's success depends on the prey's trust in ease. The world doesn't hit the fearful or the cautious. as often as it hits the complacent. Those who rest in comfort, who close their eyes to the whispers, who believe the familiar is always safe, are the easiest to ensnare. Comfort is seductive. It sings to the soul, it lulls the heart, it blinds the mind. And the trap thrives on it. It's patient, it's quiet. It waits while you feel cozy, while you feel safe, while you believe the world cannot touch you. And then, in a blink, the illusion dissolves, and you are left face to face with the danger you never saw, because comfort convinced you it wasn't there, because comfort made you soft, because comfort made you blind. Warnings, they're everywhere, aren't they? Subtle, quiet, almost polite, if you listen closely. People hear them every day, but most choose to ignore them. They nod, they smile, they convince themselves it's nothing. I'll be fine, they say. It's just overthinking. But the world doesn't wait for approval. The traps, the dangers, the hidden snares, they don't care about your denial. Ignoring warnings is like walking toward a cliff while someone shouts, "Stop," and you cover your ears. You laugh at the voice, shrug it off, and think you are clever, untouchable, until gravity reminds you that denial doesn't work and the fall is merciless. People have this idea that lessons come gently, like soft taps on the shoulder. They think life will warn them one last time before disaster strikes. But the truth is far uglier. Life doesn't whisper twice. The harshest lessons come when the warnings have been ignored, when every hint, every flicker of doubt, every subtle signal has been brushed aside. The moment you choose ignorance over attention, the universe starts sharpening its knives, and the lesson hits. Fast, brutal, unavoidable. The kind of lesson that leaves a mark you can feel in your bones, the kind that changes you whether you like it or not. Humans are funny creatures. They trust patterns, assume repetition, believe in predictability. They ignore the tiny alerts, the small signs that scream, something's not right. They convince themselves the obvious is paranoia, that suspicion is weakness, that caution is overkill. And in doing so, they make the traps work, effortless. Warnings are the map, the light, the voice of reason. Ignoring them is like closing your eyes while the world spins toward chaos. And the chaos doesn't stop for anyone. It doesn't knock politely. It doesn't send invitations. It strikes when you're least prepared, and the lesson arrives instantly, sharp, unforgettable, and devastating. It's a cruel irony, isn't it? People fear pain, failure, embarrassment, yet they disregard the signals that could have prevented all three. They ignore the subtle tremor in a friend's warning, the hesitation in a stranger's glance, the tiny signs that hint at deception, betrayal, danger. They think themselves clever, immune, untouchable. And yet, when the trap springs, when the danger arrives in full force, there is no immunity. There is only the harsh lesson they could have avoided, the consequences of ignoring every whisper of caution along the way. Warnings aren't just sounds or signs, they are tests. They measure attention, perception, and courage. They are the world's way of saying, open your eyes, pay attention, move wisely. Ignoring them is a decision, an active choice to gamble with fate. People underestimate that choice, underestimating how quickly the ignored warning becomes a wound, a scar, a lesson written in blood and regret. Every ignored signal is a step closer to confrontation, a step closer to realizing that lessons are fastest when they are unavoidable. And the beauty of warnings, in a twisted way, is that they're generous. They give a chance. They present an option. They allow those willing to listen to watch, to act, to avoid the suffering. But humans, stubborn and self-assured, often choose arrogance over humility, ignorance over attention. And the trap, patient and cunning, waits. The warning fades into background noise. The voice is dismissed, the sign overlooked, and suddenly the safety net disappears. The warning was the only thing keeping the edge soft, ignored. It becomes the mirror reflecting the brutal reality. Every lesson ignored will be taught in the harshest way possible. People hate being warned. They hate the discomfort of knowing, the responsibility of seeing, the challenge of believing that something could go wrong. Warnings demand awareness. They demand vigilance. They demand courage. Most people prefer comfort, denial, the sweet lullaby of ignorance. But the universe doesn't reward ignorance. The universe doesn't apologize. Ignoring warnings is the surest path to pain, to regret, to lessons that carve themselves into memory with precision and cruelty. And yet, warnings are everywhere. In whispers, in glances, in intuition, in experience. They scream at those who are willing to notice, and they are ignored by those who are not. The harshest lessons are reserved for the blind, the arrogant, the foolish. And when they arrive with a clarity and force no soft advice could ever prepare you for. Ignoring warnings isn't just foolish, it's deadly. It guarantees that the lesson will be unforgettable, that the cost will be high, and that survival depends on learning what could have been avoided if only the eyes were open, if only the mind had listened, if only attention had been paid. Reality, it's a cruel joke, isn't it? People wake up every day believing they understand it, thinking they've seen it clearly, assuming what appears in front of them is the whole truth. But appearances lie. The surface is a mask. The familiar is often a trap. Reality is rarely what it seems. The world doesn't hand you clarity. It hands you illusions, carefully constructed, polished, seductive. People take them at face value, trusting the shape, the color, the texture, and they stumble headlong into deception, falling for the lies hidden in plain sight. People love simplicity. They crave certainty. They want the world to make sense. And because reality rarely fits neatly into their expectations, they ignore the subtle dissonances, the small inconsistencies, the faint whispers that suggest something is off. They convince themselves it's fine, it's safe, it's normal, and they take each comfort as proof that nothing could possibly be wrong. But the world has a way of laughing at that trust, at that ignorance, at that willingness to believe in the harmless surface. And when reality shifts, when the mask falls, when the trap snaps shut, the lesson hits with a force that memory cannot forget. It's fascinating how people mistake familiarity for truth. They look at routine and call it stability. They look at smiles and call them honesty. They hear words and call them promises. But reality is not polite. Reality does not conform to expectations. Reality can twist, distort, conceal, and strike when least expected. And the moment you assume that what you see is all there is, that's the moment you're most vulnerable. The trap doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need fireworks. It hides in the familiar, in the ordinary, in the things you've been trained to trust. And when you step forward thinking everything is as it seems, it's already too late. People fear chaos, unpredictability, surprises. They cling to routine, to comfort, to the obvious. But the obvious is rarely harmless. The routine, the smile, the friendly gesture, these are all canvases for deception. The world constructs traps out of trust, disguises danger as normalcy, and waits for the perfect moment when belief has dulled your instincts. Reality is a cruel teacher, giving only fragments at first glance, and expecting you to connect them before the consequences arrive. Most people don't. Most people fail. Most people pay dearly for trusting the surface while ignoring the depth. And isn't it ironic? People are obsessed with proof, evidence, guarantees, yet the most important truths are hidden beneath appearances. The real danger, the real lessons, the real revelations are beneath the polish, behind the curtain, inside the cracks people refuse to see. If you accept reality at face value, you are dancing on a stage rigged with snares, believing every move is safe. The moment you notice the cracks, the inconsistencies, the shadows flickering in the corner, that's when you start to understand that what seemed real was a lie, and that what you thought you could trust was a carefully crafted illusion. Reality teaches patience, observation, and skepticism. It rewards the cautious, the attentive, the curious. It punishes the naive, the complacent, the unquestioning. Every misstep, every shock, every betrayal is a lesson in seeing beyond the surface, in questioning what you're told, in noticing what others ignore. People stumble because they assume truth is simple, when in fact, the most important truths are layered, hidden, disguised, and waiting for those brave enough or desperate enough to look deeper. People fear what is hidden. They fear complexity. They fear shadows. But shadows are where reality lives, where the subtle signs of danger, opportunity, and truth reside. If you ignore them, you will pay. If you dismiss them, you will fall. If you believe the first glance is all there is, you will be caught off guard. And the trap, the trap waits for exactly that. It loves those who take the world at face value, who trust the polished surface, who assume everything is as it seems. Reality is rarely kind, rarely fair, rarely simple. It's messy, deceptive, and relentless, and it will humble anyone foolish enough to believe otherwise. The clever, the aware, the patient, they see the layers. They notice the inconsistencies. They question the obvious. They survive because they understand that reality is a game of perception, a maze of appearances, a theater of illusions designed to confuse and trap the unwary. And the moment you see that truth, the moment you start peeling back the layers, that's when you gain power over the traps, when you start moving in ways others cannot anticipate, when you realize that the surface is only the beginning. And reality is far more dangerous, far more complex, far more revealing than anyone ever admits. Vigilance, it's a lonely game, isn't it? People don't like it. They avoid it. They think staying alert is exhausting, that watching closely is paranoid, that noticing the details is unnecessary. They wander through life thinking the obvious is all that matters, that the world cannot surprise them, that everything worth noticing will scream at them. But vigilance is the difference between being prey and being predator, between surviving and walking blind into a trap. It's noticing the flicker, the pause, the almost invisible signal that everyone else ignores. It's seeing the danger before it strikes, the opportunity before it vanishes, the truth before the lies swallow the world. Most people don't want vigilance. They want comfort. They want simplicity. They want the world to fit neatly into patterns they can understand. They would rather close their eyes and trust appearances than open them and face reality. But reality is ruthless. It rewards the sharp, the attentive, the restless, and it punishes the blind. Every missed detail, every ignored signal, every moment of inattention is a gift to the trap, a present for the unseen danger, an invitation for chaos to slip in unnoticed. Vigilance isn't polite. It isn't easy. It isn't for the faint-hearted. but it is the first defense against the subtle snares that most people stumble into without even realizing it. Think about it. People walk through life assuming the world is static, assuming patterns repeat, assuming nothing is out of place. They follow the same paths, trust the same people, accept the same explanations, and they never notice the cracks forming underfoot. And the trap doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to signal. It hides in the blind spots, in the pauses, in the gaps everyone else overlooks. The moment you stop watching, the moment you relax, the moment you take your eyes off the shadows, the trap moves. And vigilance is what keeps you alive, what keeps you one step ahead, what lets you see the world as it really is, rather than as you wish it were. Vigilance is more than noticing danger. It's noticing everything that everyone else ignores, the subtle glances, the hesitation, the inconsistencies, the patterns that don't quite add up. It's the ability to see the world in layers, to understand that the surface is never the full story, to anticipate what others cannot. And oh, most people don't do this. They sleepwalk, they trust, they hope, they assume safety is obvious, and every single time, the trap finds them, waiting, patient, cunning, unseen, until it's too late. The thing about vigilance is that it teaches patience and ruthlessness at the same time. You watch, you wait, you analyze, and when the moment comes, you act. People who are inattentive act too soon, too late, or not at all. They follow blindly. They react slowly. They hesitate when the world demands decisiveness. Vigilance gives clarity, focus, anticipation. It shows what is truly important, what is truly dangerous, what is truly opportunity, while others are distracted by the trivial, by appearances, by comfort. The vigilant see the hidden truth, the invisible snare, the quiet pattern that will decide survival or destruction. And the irony is delicious. People mock the vigilant. They call them paranoid, obsessive, overthinking. They fail to see that the very thing they ignore, the hidden threat, the subtle deceit, the small signals, is what will undo them. While they laugh, the trap sharpens its teeth. While they rest, the vigilant notice every detail, every subtle movement, every sign that the world is not as it seems. Vigilance is a kind of awareness others cannot understand, a rhythm of perception that turns chaos into clarity, deception into transparency, danger into foresight. Vigilance is exhausting, relentless, and often thankless. It demands attention to everything that others would dismiss. It forces constant questioning, constant observing, constant preparation, and yet, without it, you are blind. You are prey. You are a puppet for the traps that the world lays out for the inattentive. People assume the world is fair, predictable, kind. Vigilance proves otherwise. It exposes the cracks, the hidden snare, the chaos behind the curtain. And once you see it, once you truly notice, your eyes open to what others overlook. Your mind sharpens. Your steps become deliberate. Your choices deadly precise. Those who are vigilant survive. Those who are not stumble. Those who watch notice patterns, anticipate movements, understand the danger lurking in the shadows, while the rest are caught by surprise, taught harsh lessons by the world they refuse to see. Vigilance reveals the invisible, exposes the subtle, uncovers the hidden, and it rewards those willing to pay the price of constant attention, constant awareness, constant readiness. Because only the vigilant are ever truly free from the traps others fall into blindly. Timing. It's the cruelest joke of all. People think they can act whenever they like, that moments will wait for them, that the world bends to their convenience. But the world doesn't care. The world doesn't pause. The moments that matter, the opportunities that can save you or destroy you, the traps that wait silently, all of them operate on a clock that ignores your plans, your excuses, your hesitation. Timing is everything, and those who misread it, who delay, who hesitate, who wait too long, they pay the highest price. Perception is the other half of the game, seeing what others cannot see, noticing what is hidden beneath the surface, understanding the rhythm of chaos. While the world believes it's calm, this is the skill that separates the prey from the predator. Most people think perception is simple. They look at what is obvious, what is presented, what is easy to understand. But reality hides its teeth behind layers, behind distractions, behind false signals, and only those who perceive the subtle, the faint, the quiet cues can survive. Timing without perception is useless. Perception without timing is wasted. Together, they are deadly. People walk through life blind to the rhythm of events. They assume there is always more time. They assume danger will announce itself. They assume opportunities will wait until they are ready. And every single time, the trap laughs. Because the moment isn't just about acting, it's about acting at the right time. Too soon, and you stumble. Too late, and you fail. Hesitate even a heartbeat too long, and the world will teach you lessons you cannot forget. Timing is a knife, precise, merciless, and once the moment passes, there is no undoing it. Perception is like a flashlight in darkness, except most people refuse to turn it on. They ignore the shadows, dismiss the whispers, overlook the signals that scream warning in silence. And yet, the shadows hold everything: the hidden danger, the subtle opportunity, the truth behind the illusion. Those who perceive, who notice, who pay attention, they have a chance. Those who don't, they stumble, they fall, they are consumed by the traps they failed to see. Timing and perception, together, are the difference between survival and being swallowed by the unexpected. And isn't it ironic? People are obsessed with speed, with acting first, with being quick, yet they fail to notice that speed without understanding is worthless. They rush into situations thinking momentum protects them, thinking haste equals safety, thinking action is all that matters. But timing is not speed. Timing is rhythm, anticipation, knowing when to step and when to pause, knowing when to strike and when to retreat. Perception guides timing, and timing defines survival. One without the other is fatal. Most people don't realize that the world's traps are patient, cunning, and precise. They wait for the blink, the hesitation, the misstep. They observe the rhythm of inattention and exploit it. A single misjudged moment, a single failure to notice the subtle, and the consequences are immediate and irreversible. Timing is the measure of your awareness. Perception is the lens that focuses it. Together, they are survival's currency, and everything else is just noise. Timing teaches cruelty. Timing punishes delay. Timing rewards precision. Every heartbeat, every glance, every decision matters because the difference between survival and destruction is often measured in seconds. Perception sharpens that measurement, allowing you to see the invisible, anticipate the unseen, and react with deadly exactness. Most people never notice the cues, never read the signs, never realize that the rhythm of life is not gentle, not forgiving, and certainly not infinite. And the world, oh, the world doesn't slow down for anyone. It doesn't rewind. It doesn't pause while you collect courage, gather information, or convince yourself you're ready. The moments you miss are gone forever. The opportunities that slip through your fingers, the traps you fail to notice, the mistakes that could have been avoided, all are carved into your future. shaping what you are and what you will become. Timing and perception aren't skills. They are survival itself, and those who fail to master them are already casualties of the world they refuse to see clearly. Timing and perception are intertwined, like predators and prey, like the hunter and the hunted. One sees, the other strikes. One anticipates, the other executes. One misses, the other survives. Life is a series of hidden beats, invisible signals, fleeting chances, and only those who are awake, aware, and ready can navigate the rhythm without being crushed by it. The rest stumble in darkness, caught by traps that were always in plain sight, revealed only to those who were willing to notice and act before the moment vanished.